Hello and welcome to today's webinar. It is just looks like 4:01 on my calendar now, so I am going to give it a minute or two for people to get in and get settled. So we're just going to hang on. In a minute, I'll go ahead and start introductions, and then we'll get this show on the road. But I do want to give everyone just another minute or two to go ahead and log in. And we're doing that. I could get the presentation going. Give everyone a moment. Okay. All right, well, we can go ahead and at least get started with the introductions, and then if people start filing in, not a big deal. You won't miss too much. My name is Amy, so if you have inquired or sent in any kind of email or looking for more information, my name should look very familiar. I am your main point of contact for anything NISA, anything acupuncture in general, for questions and connections here on campus. Professor Moeller, would you like to make a brief introduction?
My name is Nate Moeller. I'm one of the instructors here, and I've been here for going on 2 years, but I've been teaching now for almost 20 years, and I teach some of the theory coursework and a couple of herb classes, and I work in the student clinic.
Amazing. All right, so what's going to happen is we do have the presentation today. This is being recorded. So before we get anything other than introductions in, I do want everyone to know that this will be recorded. This is also available for you that if you're, trying hard to make notes real quick, this recording is available and this presentation is available for download. All you need to do is email me. It's usually ready by tomorrow when Zoom kicks the recording back to me, and I'm happy to send out copies of that. We're going to talk a little bit about MCPHS. We're going to talk about how this whole relationship with acupuncture came about. We'll take a little bit of a deeper dive in what are we studying, how are we studying it, and so forth. And obviously, we'll end with the admission process. And this is a kind of ask as you go type webinar. So the question and answer box is live. Go ahead as we're going to stick questions in there. One of us may stop live and say, oh, this is a great time to talk about this. We may answer through typing. Also know that we may just be waiting to answer that question because we know it's coming in the webinar. So we will answer all questions, but that's kind of how this is going to work. So all of that, let's get on to the fun stuff. So we're here at MCPHS. We are thinking about acupuncture and interested in the New England School of Acupuncture. So a little bit about us as a whole university. So MCPHS has been around a really long time. They've been practicing health sciences for over 200 years. And clinical affiliations are here, there, and everywhere. So I also tell students whether you're on the Boston campus, whether you're on the Worcester campus, or if you are taking a program on our Manchester, New Hampshire campus, all of our clinical affiliations are available for all students. Those affiliations will depend on what program you're in and which affiliation is taking what type of intern student. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means specifically for acupuncture in a little while in the presentation. We've got lots of students from all over the world. I would say primarily when we're talking about our acupuncture programs, we have a large Asian population in terms of our international population. Lots of domestic students in the program, decent amount of international students, but everyone is well represented. So we are very pleased to say that we now have 2 locations to be taking our acupuncture programs. So first and foremost, our flagship campus in Boston, right there on Longwood Avenue. We're right next to Harvard Med School. We are, right there near Mass General and kind of where all the medical action is happening. So that schedule is more like a nights and weekend schedule. While we have the Worcester campus is going to house graduate students only, and this is going to be more of your traditional academic day schedule. So your classes are more traditional academic day schedule, while Boston is going to be more of a nights and weekends. And I will go into a little bit more detail about that as we get further in and explain kind of how each of these hybrid options work. But just to let you know, we do now have two locations. Maybe one of these days we can get it up to Manchester, New Hampshire, but so far this is really great that we are in a state where this program is expanding. I can't say that about every program in general, and I can't say about that about every program at MCPHS. So it's something that we're really proud of that our industry is growing. Worcester campus does have graduate on-campus housing available. Right now, Boston does not, but Boston also doesn't have enough room for all of our undergrad students to begin with. Real estate's a little bit of an issue there. But if you wanted to, if you were thinking about Worcester and wanted to relocate, we've got shared living space, so you would have 1 to 2 roommates. And we also have solo living space. So apartments, condos, suite style. We have studio apartments. So lots of different varieties. Always happy to point you in the right direction on our website. We've got some great videos, some photos. We've got blueprints. We've got amenity options. So lots of information there where you can kind of like pick and choose what might work best for you. If anyone is interested in housing and wants to speak to someone in housing, just let me know if it's not something that I can't answer for you. So I will say in terms of on-campus housing, this is something that's kind of like all expenses included. So when you sign on for housing, you're not cutting, separate checks for utilities or anything like that. You have 24/7 facility service. Most of these options come with on-site parking. Some of them do have some parking that's, a block or two away. Um, so again, always happy to go a little bit more into that if anyone wants to explore some of those options in a little more detail. MCPHS in general, in terms of what we have to offer our students and resources, our first number one resource that you're going to have is your faculty. So those are your first colleagues, they're going to be your mentors, they're going to be your advisors. So I always like to say that's probably your number one key to success is those relationships you have with your faculty. Between faculty and facilities, it's the best of the best. And I know I say that in my opinion. Everyone else can have their own opinion. These buildings and these programs are also not very old in terms of being on campus. So that means that when we renovated all of our facilities for NISA to come on board in 2016, everything was brand new, and we continue to update that as we go. So it really is state of the art facilities. Um, our faculty are wonderful. You're going to see that I believe almost all our full-time faculty hold their doctorate. Nate, you could correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I would say that most of our faculty members, if not all of them, have their terminal degree. Um, am I right about that?
Almost all of us, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So pretty much. Again, all of those resources are really if they don't, they have about 30, 40, 50 years experience. So I think that well makes up for that. Student success is something that we're going to take very seriously. One thing I always tell students, and people sometimes ask me, okay, undergrad scenarios, tell me about how grad might be different than undergrad, or what kinds of things would you recommend going into grad school. I tend to get that a lot, even if I'm in the grocery store, someone finds out who I am. One of my number one things is you don't know necessarily what's out there if you don't ask. So we've got tons and tons of support services. We have the Center for Academic Success and Enrichment. You can find academic coaches, peer tutoring, peer mentors. We've got the Writing Center where you can just drop in, say, a paper is being due and you want some help proofing it, or you want some help maybe organizing your thoughts while you're trying to get the paper up and running. That is all available to all of our students. You have to make the appointment and you have to go in and do it, or you have to be able to sign on to the Zoom to do it. So I tell students take advantage of all of these resources. Um, Also, a little different than undergrad is that competitive nature seems to kind of go away when you get into these programs. When you're graduating, you're not competing necessarily with the person next to you. Everyone's going to take the same exam. Everyone gets licensed the same way. So it's not a competition of, ooh, well, I got a 93 and you only got an 87. Like I'm moving to the top of the class and the rank. Very, very undergrad way of thinking. And I also know it can be hard to transition, especially if you're coming from a really competitive undergrad environment. Everyone wants you to succeed. Your faculty want to have successful colleagues when you're going to be graduating. Everyone wants to offer whatever we can, but you have to be willing to take that support. Your faculty member may come up to you and say, I'm noticing these signs that maybe, we could be struggling in this subject. I have some advice. They may see something before you see something. So I also like to warn students that if a faculty member is reaching out to you, it's going to be a positive way, not a negative way. So I would always take it as a positive because we may see some faculty or administration could see something in a student because that's part of their job that it's starting to lead the snowball effect that they could either fall behind or not be successful in that class. So accepting help, looking for help, I would say probably is my number one thing. We have a lot of it. We just need to know what you need in order to be able to help you. If any students need any kind of accommodation, our Office of Student Access and Accommodations are wonderful. They will hop on a call with you. They'll make an appointment, on campus, online, whatever works for you. They'll be able to do an intake and a conversation and help you set up any accommodations that might be needed. So also career development. This is probably something we won't necessarily use once we first get onto campus, but obviously maybe as we're getting ready to go out and creating a resume and going through interviews and such. One great component about now you can come to MCPHS. There are other programs of acupuncture out there across the country. So when people tend to ask me, they're like, okay, this is a great program, this is a great curriculum, but so and so in this state, they have a similar curriculum. So why should I go here versus here if some of the options are the same? One big thing is the fact that we are under a health science university. That is the only thing that is studied in this university. So we make you work together. That's a great opportunity, even though if we think of it as kind of, oh my God, one more thing we have to do while we're in the program. But when you're going to be going out into healthcare in general, and I would suggest this no matter if you were going to be studying acupuncture or any kind of area of healthcare, is there's this idea of collaborative care. That is what our healthcare system is based on. Typically, when you are walking in for any kind of medical appointment, I'm sure that, two doors down is the lab. In the left, you could probably have your physical therapist, you could have your primary, you could have an acupuncturist, and so forth. So, how do those practitioners work together? We want you to play in the sandbox before you get out into reality. So, we do something called interprofessional education where you get to work with these other students on campus. So things like small case studies or small semester projects that maybe you work with one program, maybe all the programs are working together. We ask students to participate. It's not something that's credit bearing. It's not something that you're graded on at all. It's just kind of a requirement that you participate and get that experience. So a little bit about here and kind of explained how it's going to work. Professor Moeller, do you want to give a little bit of insight in terms of kind of the other side of it and how this can benefit when you're working and not necessarily still in school?
Sure. I mean, it will improve or build your communication skills with other professions. So you'll kind of be exposed to the language that other professions use in healthcare and how they think about cases. It's a lot of fun to sit with your peers and do cases with physical therapists and occupational therapists, pharmacists, etc. And it's not all work like case studies. Some of the interprofessional events are fun. Like there's a Jeopardy night where you get together and you play healthcare Jeopardy with your interprofessional peers. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, I always love watching like the first activity everyone does is like a roll call. So everyone wants to learn like who does what, on this campus. If you're a pharmacy student, what does a pharmacist do? And I love it sometimes when the acupuncture student is last because, everyone's going around and, some of your typical things. And a lot of people talk about, okay, pharmacy, like how do we treat pain? Well, pharmacist is going to talk about medication. A physical therapist maybe talking about, different things. And you get to the acupuncturist and they're like, well, we could have prevented this whole problem. And I love to just watch the faces drop of like, what? What do you talk? Tell me more. Tell us all more. So I love being able to see those interactions on campus, and it truly does bring kind of you and your colleagues from other programs just more together. It just means that you have more contacts when you're getting out there into healthcare to better benefit you and your patients. Here we go. Okay, so New England School of Acupuncture at MCPHS. This lovely relationship started in 2016. MCPHS was, practicing a lot of Western medicine. We were missing a component. We had all this Western medicine and we had no Eastern medicine. And MCPHS did not have the faculty or the expertise to be able to be teaching these kinds of subjects and programs. So I like to think that, it was right time, right place, right time that this relationship could happen. So Nisa moved out here to Worcester. I'm currently on the Worcester campus. And now starting in 2026 is our first big expansion into Boston. So we're really excited. Um, New England School of Acupuncture, we are the first acupuncture program in the United States. So just kind of like when we say, MCPHS has been around for over 200 years. NISA's been around for over 50 now. So two really strong health schools that have been around for a very long time. So very much rooted here in New England, very much rooted, I would go on a limb to say all around the world. Not only MCPHS, but NISA as well. We have a little bit of bragging rights on here with different, different statistics. This is basically just to show that we are rated, that we do show up at different things. Sometimes I do get questions about rankings. Um, we are the only school of acupuncture here in New England. So not only are we the first program in the United States, but we are the only and largest program here in our area of the United States. Niece's purpose and Niece's mission statement. Obviously, you can stand here. I'm sitting. I don't think anyone's standing. You can sit here and kind of take a look at this. Nate, I don't know if you want to kind of, from a faculty perspective, of how you view our purpose and mission with our students.
I mean, we have a great environment. I think the purpose and mission says it all. We uphold these ideals in our classrooms and in our student clinic, and how we practice in other venues around Massachusetts, and hospitals and other larger healthcare facilities. So, yeah, we have a great inclusive and integrative is really the big thing. We have this huge advantage with integrative medicine where we are, developing these relationships with other professions throughout your education here. So I think We have a great program here. I've worked at 5 different acupuncture colleges over the years, and this is by far the most comprehensive and integrative program I've worked for. It's pretty spectacular, honestly.
Amazing. And also, if you were to look up MCPHS's purpose and mission statement, you'd also catch a lot of the same wording. So when we're talking about to create a healthier world, when you look at MCPHS, I actually have a t-shirt that says it, that we're trying to create a more healthier and equitable healthcare world. So things like being innovative and collaborative and integrative, that is going to be a reoccurring theme that you see in terms of looking at purposes and mission statements and kind of our goals for having this institution and what we're looking for out of our students and kind of what we like to make our imprint in on the world. Well, there we go. Now it's working. Okay, Nate, I am going to have you talk a little bit about this rather than me because I am not the expert that comes with it. I love to get all of this, but I can't necessarily explain it. So, for any of us that are on the call that are really just looking for kind of the basics of what we study, Nate, I'll let you kind of go into explain what this is all about.
So here at the in the acupuncture program, of course, you're going to learn about acupuncture. So we have the first year. You're going to be learning the basic theories. You're going to be learning what we call Chinese medicine foundational theory, where we talk about the origins of the medicine, the philosophy of the medicine, and then as you go into your second year, you're going to be doing some more diagnostic techniques, where you're learning how to diagnose the patient. You'll also be alongside this learning about acupuncture points, all the different acupuncture channels. And in the program, we do teach you how to do other adjunctive therapies like moxibustion, which is the burning of an herb on the needles to warm the needle, cupping, which maybe some of you have seen. I got some good press a few summers ago in the Summer Olympics. Gua sha is a type of body work where we use a tool to scrape the skin. Electroacupuncture or e-stim acupuncture, where we attach little electrical cords to stimulate the muscles, kind of like a TENS unit if you've been to a chiropractor. We study Chinese herbs, nutrition, body work like Tui Na, and you get to learn a little bit of Tai Chi or Qigong and some kind of self-care techniques. So we're really kind of a whole practice of a whole variety of different skills and practices that you pick up and learn while you're here in the program.
Amazing. So I will say that your first year, when it's your first day on campus, you get to start your first day on campus with a self-care class. So I also love that approach that we're going to get you nice and calm when you get here to campus for your studying environment. So I also kind of love that that's how you start. Okay, so these are the different options that we have. So I'm going to go through these. And again, the question and answer box is live. So if any of this seems confusing as I'm going through it, or we have specific questions, please feel free to be asking them. So depending on which state that you live in and that you want to practice in, the master's level degree is the minimum requirement. So, Master of Acupuncture and Chinese Herbal Medicine. The reason why I say specific states, because if we are looking at any example for the states that are listed here, such as California or Texas, in order to be licensed as an acupuncturist, they actually require for you to have studied both acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. Massachusetts, and I believe pretty much all of New England. It's just a master of acupuncture minimum that you need in order to be eligible for state licensure. So also kind of compared to like a bar exam, for law, each state. You can be licensed in each state. So your degree makes you eligible for each individual state exam. Granted that you successfully complete the Master of Acupuncture. So everyone takes intro to herbs. So that's also a really great benefit that if we applied with herbs, we give you the option, do you want to keep it or do you want to drop it now that we've taken intro? And if you didn't apply with herbs, that is the opportunity where we give you, would you like to add it? Um, it increases from a 3-year program to a 4-year program if we're studying herbs. Um, but again, that would be kind of like your minimum base. So there is no Bachelor of Acupuncture. There is no way to do like a doctorate if you already have a master's in business or anything of that nature. Master of Acupuncture is the minimum. Now, we also have full doctoral programs. We have, again, a Doctor of Acupuncture, Doctor of Acupuncture in Chinese Herbal Medicine. And if you are already a licensed acupuncturist, but you have not studied herbs, you had not, you just are practicing acupuncturist that stopped at the master's, we do have a 1-year completion program. So you come back for an online program of 1 year, and then you would complete that additional training for the doctorate. Your clinical skills are all during the master's. So when we're getting to finishing the doctorate, that finishing work is done online. So sometimes I get the question, well, why would I want to take the doctorate? Um, are you looking to go into education or research? Are we looking to maybe open, our own, integrated acupuncture into major hospitals? Do you see yourself maybe serving on one of those large clinical boards? Um, I don't know, writing textbooks, things of that nature. Nate, feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything, but I'm thinking like those are the big differences as to why you would take on the additional step, if I'm correct.
Correct. The big thing I would say is if you want to teach, or if you want to potentially work in a hospital, they're all going to be looking for that doctoral level to get into a hospital job. And there are some good jobs for acupuncture in hospitals, so that's definitely a consideration. I do want to say one thing about the acupuncture and the herbal program. When I went to school, I didn't have the option. And I'm going to tell you one thing, and then I'm going to tell you another thing. I probably would have just done the acupuncture program if I had the choice, but I didn't have the option. And I am so glad that I did the herb program. It's such a huge part of how I practice. And with the herb program, you get that much more of an in-depth theoretical background to enter the profession with. And so I usually suggest, I was an academic dean for about 5 years in Colorado. I usually would suggest students do both the acupuncture and the herb program, because I think they're both great. So that's
Well,
just
I
my
can't
little
live without
commercial.
both anymore. So, I mean, I don't know if you can see this through Zoom. Like, here are my herbs right here. They're literally on my desk at all times. So it is really great. I do love seeing, like, when I go into the clinic, I am there weekly. I love kind of seeing, oh, last week when you said this, like, students will go, I looked up these herbs and I think they really might work for you. And just the kind of like, for all the things to start connecting and get excited. I love it. But again, everyone takes the intro class, so everyone gets to dip their toe in the water for herbs, which is great, and we still give you that time to make those final decisions. Also with the doctorate, it kind of works the same way. So you don't start taking any courses that are applicable to the doctorate piece until the end of your second year, I believe, is the deadline to either add or drop that portion, if I'm correct. So you're not charged anything at that point. So essentially, whenever we're getting close to you having to take coursework regarding whatever certification or anything you're signed up for, we will kind of give you the red stop sign. Do we want to still proceed or are we stopping where we are? So that's also a great thing that, if you're in it and all of a sudden, oh my God, no, I actually want that or I don't want that, you are safe. There are options there to add and to drop. We also have Japanese acupuncture. So again, everyone takes intro to Japanese acupuncture. It is not something you apply for ahead of time, like the herbs piece. But everyone takes intro, and again, you'll have the instructions of this is, the deadline that you have to tell us if you would like to declare to take on that extra certification. You can also come back for both of our certifications. So if you wanted to, you could do the Master of Acupuncture. And if down the road you decided you wanted to add on herbs, right now it's a pretty long certificate. It's the 3-year herbal certificate. Essentially, when our herbal classes come up in the curriculum, that's when our herbal certificate students would be participating. So this is also an on campus certification. So keep that in mind. There are always options to come back and to add things and all of that. So really good options there. So now we can talk about campus options. Before it was just Worcester. Now we have Worcester and Boston. Both of these campuses and programs are both hybrid. They are both full-time, but they are different schedules and different days of the week. So for Worcester campus, it is going to remain your traditional daytime academic schedule. So you're online throughout the whole program. You need to expect to be online 2 to 3 days a week and on campus 2 to 3 days a week. You do not exceed 5 days in terms of our academic week. But some semesters you may be on campus a little bit more than online. Some semesters you may be a tad bit more online than on campus, or 50-50. So I usually tell students keep that 2 to 3 days in mind and you should be great no matter what semester comes up. So during the day, whether it's online or on campus, your classes are delivered between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. And Wednesday, Thursday are your staple on-campus days unless otherwise instructed. So Boston is going to be kind of the flip version of that. So Boston is going to be more of a model of nights and weekends. So again, still full-time program, still the same amount of full-time credits, but you wouldn't be taking your classes during the week, during the day. So when you are on campus or if you're on campus during the week and online, between 5:30 and 9:30 or 5 to 9 is going to be our relevant time for you to be at night. You will have the occasional Thursday night class on campus. So again, that's when you need to think about, oh, yep, 2 to 3 days a week. Your standard on campus days are Saturday, Sunday versus Worcester's Wednesday, Thursday. So again, Boston is trying to mimic the most we can of like a night and weekend schedule, while Worcester remains a traditional academic schedule. Again, I'm always happy to answer questions about that. I have copies of schedules, so if you do not have that, feel free to send me a quick email and I can pop that schedule in for you to have a copy of that. That is absolutely no problem. So one great thing about this program, and I actually answered this earlier this morning when I was chatting with a candidate, is your clinical training starts the moment that you walk onto campus. Granted, we don't let you start touching patients right away. However, first half of the program is going to be your clinical assistantship, that is assisting in shadowing. You're responsible for 30 hours of this clinical internship per semester. And please know that that is outside of your already scheduled classroom time, so online on campus time. Then the second half of the program is what we call your clinical internship. So works pretty much the same way in terms of like picking your sites and, schedules and outside of classroom time. But instead of you assisting and shadowing, you are now going in as the practicing acupuncturist while under supervision of a licensed acupuncturist. We have a lot of different locations for you to go to for clinical sites. We're super heavy here in New England, but we do have sites across the US. We have a great opportunity if students wanted to do 2 weeks at the Cleveland Clinic. We are the only acupuncture school that our students are going there for that. So we're really excited about that. We have over 130, I'm sure at this point more. I probably need to update this. 130 private practices that students go through. We have hospital partners, we have community clinic partners, we have private practice partners. But Nate, I'll have you talk a little bit about more of like the details of what students are doing in each one of those phases. And if you have any input of, I don't know, advice when you're taking on these clinical hours, and especially like scheduling them outside of classroom time.
So, for the first phase, clinical assistantship, that's where you can potentially schedule into practices that are uh, in the community. So you can work with professionals that have uh, uh, relationships with the college and see how they're practicing out in the community. And also, we do have some clinical assistantship availability here in the student clinic with faculty here providing the treatments, and you can follow the faculty there. So in that stage, you're observing the practitioner, and the practitioner is providing the acupuncture, and you're getting exposed to how a treatment looks and what the process is. In some cases, you might be helping to remove needles or helping with uh, uh, some of the uh, more minor aspects of the process, but primarily it's an observation phase. In the second phase, it's clinical internship, and in that phase, it's flipped. So the students do the treatments, and the supervisors supervise. So you'll be practicing acupuncture essentially. You'll be interviewing the patients, feeling the pulse, looking at the tongues, and putting the needles in, taking the needles out, doing the gua sha, the tui na, all of the techniques that you're learning in the program will be performed and practiced in the student clinic. So I think, did I cover everything, Amy?
Yeah, one more thing. So I actually had a long conversation with an inquired student yesterday about this, coincidentally. Um, Students that are commuting from further distances, so stay maybe 2 hours, 2+ hours. Can you talk a little bit about how we can work with students for sites that might not be like close to our campus locations?
Yeah, I know that there are some sites that are relatively far away. So I would check with Maria on that because she has a list of practitioners that are both local to the Massachusetts area and some out of state even. So if it's a struggle to get into the Massachusetts area, Worcester or Boston area, there's probably a practitioner that we're tied with in an area that you're living in the surrounding states. So
Amazing. And Maria is amazing. She's great to work with. She manages all of our clinical sites. So if anyone had further questions about that, I'm also happy to make that connection. She loves chatting with inquiring students. Um, so we do have a state-of-the-art herbal dispensary. We have an herbal dispensary and community clinic both on the Worcester campus and the Boston campus. Um, so a little bit about the herbs that we have. I know that it's a variety of herbs. So they're high quality herbs. Now, in terms of the vendors that we use, sometimes that can change depending on maybe changes with our vendors. So we pay very, very close attention in terms of where are we ordering these herbs from? Where are they getting them? How do they handle them? How do they get here? How are they packaged? So I will say we have raw herbs, we have granulated herbs. Um, kind of the A to Z. Nate, I'll have you talk a little bit about that process in terms, I do like to say that we have all the different types of herbs in terms of what students will be doing in the herbal dispensary. I believe they have 15 hours there in the dispensary if you're studying herbs.
So, at our school, the herbal dispensary and the student clinic are in different places. And so, if you're in the herb program in clinic, you'll be, doing the treatment and prescribing the herbs. But in the dispensary, that's where your prescription to the patient goes. And the dispensary is what makes, processes and dispenses that prescription. So, in that facility, you'll be putting together raw herbs, also granular powdered herbs. So we have several different formats that herbal formulas can take. One is a pill form, and that's pre-made into pills. So you can't really modify that. Then we have raw herbs, which are just the twigs and sticks and barks, sometimes minerals that get put into a formula that way. And patients take those herbs home and make tea out of them. And then we have granular herbs, which is like having a second pharmacy. And granulars are concentrates, so they're already processed and they're dehydrated. And so it's like adding instant coffee to hot water, except it's herbs. So you just put your powdered herb into some hot water, stir it up, and you drink it that way. And so all of these are different ways that herbs are dispensed in Chinese medicine. And you'll be exposed to all of that in the dispensary hours. You'll be putting the herbs together for patients.
I've watched my herbs, like I've had tablets and I've had granular, and I got to watch my tablets being formed. Really, really cool. One thing that I did learn that is helpful is I like to take my powdered herbs with something sweet rather than just hot water, because I got in a prescription that maybe doesn't taste the best, but there are lots and lots of ways to make that taste better. So I love it. I was scared of them at first, and then I found all the tricks. So it's working great. So we've talked a lot about this, kind of a lot of these themes have been throughout the presentation of why should you study at NISA? There are other programs out there. We know that there are other programs out there. We're not going to be the best fit for every student. I always suggest that you come visit us and really see all the cool stuff that we have to make sure that it's a good fit for you. You are going to be getting so much hands-on training, and it really is from the moment that you set foot on campus. So we do have a very strong view of, yes, we're going to put you in a classroom, we're going to sit you down, and we need to lecture. There are things that we have to teach you. You're going to need a book, you're going to need to be examined on, so forth. While we're teaching it to you, we're then putting you in the lab and having you physically manipulate and practice what we just taught you. Awesome. But then also simultaneously, we have you out there assisting and interning and seeing it in real life and seeing it come together. So really, it's a real immersive learning environment in terms of it's just not one style over the other. So we really want you to live this material versus just you're coming in for a program. We're teaching you the material, hurry up and learn it. You're going to take your exam, you're going to be licensed, you're going to go out and practice. So I also say that this is convenient for a lot of different learning styles. So, there'll be hands-on, like book work, there'll be verbal work, you're going to be working in teams where a faculty member could be quizzing you verbally while you're working on a student. There are going to be ways that you're tested through, traditional pen and paper and so forth. Since we've been around a long time, we have a very strong alumni network here with NISA. So that also helps you with some of these clinical placements. So a lot of our preceptors tend to be a lot of our alumni. They love having students come with them. They love to be able to give back and to help kind of train the next generation of acupuncturists. And you're going to be learning with some of the like the nicest materials that you can find. So again, the state-of-the-art facilities, our treatment clinics and herbal dispensaries are just beautiful. Again, I live in the clinic. Students are back this week. Yesterday was the first day of classes, and I cannot wait for the clinic to be open so I can have an appointment again. Um, our faculty are distinguished in their field. I mean, we have faculty that, for example, we have private deans on our faculty. We have faculty members that have written textbooks. We have faculty members that have worked with celebrities and sports teams and anything. I mean, like, you name it, I can tell you we have a faculty member probably practicing that area. So there's a lot you can do with acupuncture, which is really great. Um, so we have a lot to offer our students. We have a lot of resources to offer our students. And those resources are available to you no matter which pathway you're taking in our programs and no matter which campus is a better learning option for you. Acupuncture is growing. And so not only is the industry growing, but education is growing. We are growing. We do not have enough practitioners to fill the need right now, especially in the New England area. I can speak a little bit more about New England versus the rest of the country because this is where I live and I see it and I get to talk to people about it. So you're going to be well prepared when you go out, and there are jobs waiting for you when you get out. I always say that also with it depends on what you want to be doing when you get out in terms of is there a job immediately waiting for you? If we're going to go out and going to be opening our own business, obviously we see success a little bit longer down the road when we're starting up a business versus maybe just graduating and going out and getting our first paycheck as a practitioner. You're going to be well paid, you're going to be well prepared, and you are in an industry where we need more people. So it's a great time to be getting into acupuncture because a lot of exciting things are happening and a lot of things are growing within our industry. So now that we've told you how wonderful of a place it is and you just cannot wait to get here, let me tell you the process on getting here. So application is free through our website. So that's benefit number one is you are not paying any money to get that application in. So you're not necessarily formally committing to anything right at the beginning. The application online is a basic form. So who are you? And all of those questions. There's instructions on how to send us all of your transcripts. And there's also a section that shows on how to upload your personal statement. And that is your journey to acupuncture. So, why us? Why now? Why do you want to study this? So when you're submitting your official transcripts, first, if you have a completed undergraduate degree, you meet the credit requirements for all of our programs, whether that is the master's level or doctorate level. If you do not have a completed undergraduate degree, that's okay. There are still pathways to do both the master's and the doctorate. If we're doing masters, you need to make sure that you have a minimum of 60 completed undergraduate credits. That's roughly about 2 years of study or associate's degree type level of study. If we want to go through at any point and ever do the doctorate, whether that's immediately or you come back for it, just know you will have to show a minimum of 90 completed undergrad credits. So again, you go through the master's, maybe a few years after that, you decide, hey, actually, I want to go back for the doctorate, and you don't have 90 credits, you will have to gain more undergrad credits to meet that requirement. So sometimes that can get confusing when we're talking about applicants without a completed undergrad degree. So again, still very possible. You just need to pay attention for what's required depending on your background. If you have any undergraduate studies that were done internationally, please know that we require a course-by-course transcript evaluation. Typically, we see those coming in from either WES or ECE. Again, if we have questions on that, you can just feel free to email me or reach out. I'm happy to answer further inquiries on that. Once your application is complete, your application first comes to me. So I'm doing a review to make sure that you're eligible, to make sure, you are you, whatever school you said, during that form is the transcripts we're looking at. I'm making sure that you have enough credits. I'm making sure that you are eligible for application. All eligible candidates are invited for interview. We run weekly interviews both online and on campus. It does not make a difference to us which format you interview in. It's really your personal preference. And so that is why we offer both formats. About 30, 40 minutes would be about timeline of one-on-one with a faculty member. We love questions. So really we want to know as much about you as we can, but we also want you to know as much about us in terms of you can to make sure that this is a good fit. I will say in terms of timeline, from the time that your interview is complete, you have your final decision within a week. At this point in the application cycle, you'll get your decision within 48 hours of your interview. Students have 2 weeks to make their deposit. There is still plenty of room for fall of 2026. We will accept applications through the middle of August. So we will not turn applications off. I do recommend keeping the beginning of June in mind if we know that we want to be applying. That ensures plenty of time for the admission process and the onboarding process. We do have one question about prerequisites. So it is just a credit requirement. We have no prerequisite course requirements. So you can come into this program, whether science background, no science background. You can come in if you haven't been in a classroom in 20 plus years. There's no time limit on those credits. We do accept some transfer credit. So if students have taken general biology, Anatomy and Physiology 1 or Anatomy and Physiology 2. We do accept those basic science credits as transfer as long as they have been completed in the past 5 years. So no prereq course requirements, but we do offer some of those transfer course credits there. So hopefully that helps answer that question. So there's not a whole lot of barriers to entry here. Sometimes I get asked the question, what's the admit rate? It's pretty high. If you're an eligible candidate and, you have the personality for this program, you're a good fit, I can pretty much say that more than likely you would be admitted unless, other factors come along. However, the barrier could be, are you really ready to withstand this full-time coursework? And I think that's sometimes the hardest thing for students to be able to figure out. I am getting another question about financial aid information. We do process federal aid. Excuse me, in terms of any aid being offered directly from the school. For incoming fall of 2026, our students are being awarded a scholarship if you are admitted. That scholarship brings our tuition rate from $660 per credit to $505 per credit. So that is aid being automatically offered by the school. In terms of any other financial aid, our financial aid office and billing office process private loans. We process federal government loans. These programs are eligible for federal funding. So the standard FAFSA package is $20,500 a year with a cap of $100,000 total. Right now, that fits our program. You would be just a little bit short each year with that 20,500, but does cover the majority of that tuition. We have another question about possibility of having to take a break or a leave of absence from the program. That is an option. You would first contact your advisor to chat about what type of break might be needed or if there's anything that you can work out ahead of time. But yes, we do have leave of absence. Again, you would work with your advisor in terms of when are you taking the leave, for how long, and when you would be coming back and what that schedule looks like. So also know that that will be determined on a case-by-case basis. But we also understand we're talking about adults here, we're all grad students. life happens and we know that and we understand that. So we will absolutely work with you to the best of our powers to make sure that you don't fall too far behind if you do need to take a break. I did want to leave up here in case you don't have my contact information. I, again, am your main point of contact. I am happy that if you wanted to talk with someone about financial aid, I'm happy to put you in touch with that. If we have more one-on-one questions for one of our faculty members, unfortunately, since classes started yesterday, I didn't have a current student on this info session, only because they're just getting back onto campus and kind of, into school zone. So if you wanted to talk with a current student, I'm also happy to put you in touch with one. I do have a very small handful of alumni at my disposal, that is growing right now. It's starting off a little small. But we also have some alumni available if you had questions specifically for them. So we have options on our visit tab if you want to come take a campus tour. If those options do not work for you, you can just contact me. I'm happy to set up a time to show you around. We do have options for students to come visit class on campus. Again, that's something you just contact me directly and I'll give you those options. It changes per semester, sometimes can change week per week, depending on what's going on. Give me at least a week's heads up for us to figure that out. I do not see any more questions coming in. We do have about 3 minutes. So I'm going to stay live for a couple more minutes in case we have more questions. But in case we don't, I want to thank everyone for coming. These were some really great questions to be answered. I'm always available again for appointments to go into further details and always happy to connect you with any member of our community to help make sure that you have all the information you need. So I don't see any more typing going on. Again, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks for joining, and there's still plenty of time to be coming in for the fall. So hopefully, maybe I'll be able to see a lot of you coming in this September. So with that, thank you everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.